at the end what it comes down to, and that wasn't helpful because, but the problem is blah, blah, blah. Hi all and welcome to a new video. This is a Valentine's Day special just for you, and today I will comment on 7 clips and 3 phrases, and then in the end do a little recap, recommendations, everything you need to know. And so let's begin. So let's watch the first clip together.
Tip number 1 is to throw away the checklist.
I've been trying to find clips that I disagree with, because otherwise I think it's a bit boring, but not everything I will disagree with. But this one I definitely disagree with. Do not throw away your checklist. Because let's go a little bit back in time. When I wrote my checklist in the past, I was very modest, and that wasn't helpful because the checklist was simply too broad and too many people could fit into it, and that's why I never really found the person that was a really good match for me. Once I had this epiphany that I can write whatever I want on there, and that makes it so much easier, because the more specific you are, the more you actually know what you want. And I feel that anywhere in life, whenever you're super vague, it leaves too many doors open for chaos. So be specific, be as specific as you want. However, what I want to touch on is that be specific about the right things.
Now, the issue with checklists is that we generally make a checklist that optimizes for the wrong things.
Like, sometimes it is worthwhile to say, okay, I don't care how old this person is. Obviously, they need to be over 18, but otherwise, I'm not going to make this something that's super important. Like, focus on character and value. Those are the 2 things, in my opinion, that are the most important. Know what values you want to see in that person, and know what sort of person, what sort of character this person needs to be. And then, yes, you can have some wishes for how they look like, because people tend to say don't focus on that. But the problem is, if there isn't attraction, then it's most likely not gonna work. I can tell you an example in my own life. Before I met my current partner, I went out with a guy and we got along really, really well, but I didn't find him attractive, and I kept giving him chances because I thought, okay, maybe the attraction's gonna come, it's gonna come, but it never came. And I only did that because people told me to do that. But the reality is, it's wrong, because what happens is you lead somebody on. Now, I didn't do it on purpose, but it doesn't matter if somebody does something on purpose or not. It's not good to hurt someone's feelings, and sometimes we can't help it. We're just people. We all make mistakes. But the more specific you are, and the more honest and outspoken, the quicker you get to the person that's really for you. You don't hurt people, and you do more of a service to the world. So that's what I have to say about the checklist. Now let's look at the next one.
Even if you have a mediocre date, you can save it by ending on a high note. You can ask someone for a kiss and give them a great kiss.
I just want to touch on the topic kiss on the first date. No, you don't have to. Yes, if you feel like it, fine. But me personally, I did not do that. And the reason is that I feel that one date is nothing. I mean, yes, you can get a really, really good feel for it. You can tell whether you should go on a second date. You can tell whether you are vibing or not. But I think it is nice to build a bit more. I think it's nicer to keep that first kiss for a day where you truly mean something for each other, and where that kiss means that you are leading up to a relationship. Otherwise, it's just so meaningless, but completely up to you.
And so take your checklist, take your so-called type, rip it up, be willing to say, I'm going to date different types of people, and see what side of me they bring out.
We already spoke about the checklist, so that's not what I want to speak on. I want to speak on the topic of dating a bunch of people at the same time until you come across your person. I completely disagree on that, and it didn't help me find my person at all. I did that for a while because of listening to this sort of advice, but what it did to me is that I just felt super confused. I kept comparing people, and honestly, that's not good in my opinion. And then what actually worked for me is to just date one person at a time and see if it leads to a relationship or not, because that way I could really focus on that person. I could really tone into them, see if there is a connection. Because what happens when you date several people at the same time, I just felt so confused and torn. And then also you're wondering, are they dating other people at the same time? And it's almost like you're in this competition, in this race, and that's not how love should be. I think it is much more enjoyable for two people just focus on each other and then take that leap into the relationship or not. And for me, that's really worked out. I think dating a bunch of people at the same time works when you're not really serious and when you just want to dip your toe into waters, but you don't really mind whether it leads to a relationship or not. You're just there for the fun. Then I think you can do what you like. But if you've had enough of games, if you've had enough of dating around, I think you should be honest to yourself and the people you date and just date one person at a time.
Make your reaction to things something somebody wants to experience.
I don't think your power is in having sex with a man. Your power is in what you do afterwards.
Now, this video, Matthew Hussey. I just want to say, listening to dating advice like this is not worth your while because it's about tactics and it's not about love. Focus on yourself. If you feel like I've dated so many people, it hasn't worked out, what's wrong, where's this going? See a counselor, see a psychiatrist, see a coach, but don't listen to random advice on the internet. I guess this is one of them. But I'm just speaking from my experience because I did that in the past. I didn't know any better. My dating life wasn't going anywhere and I listened to people and it drives you mad. Work on yourself and be yourself. That's what's getting you somewhere. Not going with strategic. No. It's not getting you anywhere.
The next test I conduct is what the first date actually consists of. If it is super low effort and casual, that is not my vibe. I am not someone that you are just gonna meet up with, have a quick conversation, quick coffee, and then we're gonna go. No.
Now, I get her point, and to be honest, I like her videos and I think she has a lot of really good points. I disagree on this one because I feel that when you've never met, it is a little bit hard to gauge on whether it's going to go anywhere or not. And I personally feel really uncomfortable if somebody buys me an expensive dinner and I know within the first 5 minutes that this is not going to go anywhere. It just makes me really, really uncomfortable. And this is why I prefer coffee dates or having a drink at a bar, but not a dinner. Unless you know this person already and you like this person and then they're taking you on a first date. But if we talk about a first date from a dating app and you never met the person, I personally think there's nothing wrong with the first coffee date. But then as you carry on, that's when it gets more important to see how much effort goes into the following dates. Because if this person really likes you, then it does show, if they make an effort on the following dates, that they are really committed and interested. And if they don't, then yeah, it shows the opposite. But I just don't think that the very first date needs to be a super high effort date.
I think intentions should be communicated as soon as you feel like you know what you want from a person. You know, you don't really need to walk into a date having, I want to have kids in 6 months written on your shirt, but I absolutely think that bringing up the topic is necessary unless you have a thing for wasting your time and being unnecessarily disappointed.
Now, I think that you can be as honest as you want on the first few dates. I do think maybe on the first date, keep it low-key and don't speak about children or marriage because it's a first date. Don't be so serious. It's not about whether you're straightforward or not. I just think that the first date is more for the vibe. Do you get on? Does the conversation flow? Does it feel good? And then I think on the second and the third date, that's when you can get more into the nitty-gritty. And if somebody's not committed, then they're not worth your time if you want to be committed. And you can also mention the topic of marriage and children if you like. I don't think it's something you should be afraid of, because if they are committed and that's what they want, they'll just say, oh, okay, that's what I want. And if they're scared and run away, then so be it. If you had mentioned it on date 10 or 20, they would have run away then. So they may as well run away on date 2 or 3.
Attraction is one of the foundations of a good relationship, and it's completely valid not to be interested in someone simply because you don't find them attractive.
Yeah, this is what I touched on earlier, and I wanted to show you this clip because, again, a lot of the time people just say, no, just don't focus on the looks or what makes you feel attracted. But I tell you, yes, if you have certain things that attract you to people, then this person needs to bring that to the table. And if you are open, that's a good thing. If you're not so focused on just one type, that's a really good thing. But if you are, then it is very difficult to change that. You can definitely change that over time, but it is difficult. And so don't think that if somebody has great values and a great character, but you find them zero attractive. For some people, it does come later. You always hear these stories, but it may not. And I don't think it's a good idea to string someone along and wait for this attraction to come around. I just don't think it's a good idea. Now, let's talk about a few phrases. It comes when you least expect it. When I was single, I hated this. It is true to the extent that if you don't take it word for word, but you just take it a bit like this is not the only thing you focus on, you're doing this, that, and the other, and then you're dating as well, and you're just a bit relaxed about the topic. Yes, it can happen that when you're not hung up on this, you're not showing desperation in your vibe, that's attractive. That if you're confident, if you're not worried about being in a relationship or not, then that comes across as an attractive trait for a lot of people. But a lot of people think that he comes when you least expect it, that you just don't make any effort. And I think that's completely wrong. I think if you never go out of your way, if you never go on a date, then you may just end up by yourself. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. If you're happy, that's fine. But if you want somebody in your life, then there's nothing wrong with making an effort. The next one is, when it's the right one, it'll be easy. That is incorrect. That can be correct, but it doesn't have to be correct. Now, this is a really tricky one to explain. So, relationships can be really difficult if there's two people who have trauma. Actually, most people have trauma. And luckily, more people talk about it now. But even if it's just one person who has trauma, then when you're in a relationship, you're very close with this person. Even if you're not living together, you're closer to that person than to any of your friends. And that means they trigger things in you. They may do things that are not meant, like they don't want to actively trigger you. Now, some people do, and that's where it gets a bit confusing. If people actively want to trigger you and want to hurt you, then you shouldn't be with them. But if somebody is doing something and it triggers you, but it's not really something that they do on purpose or that they do in a mean way, then it's something that you have to work out, and then it's something that you need to journal about or read about or go to therapy about. And that means the relationship might not be easy, but there's nothing wrong with it, with the relationship itself. But the two people need to work on it. And the two people may need to go to couple therapy or not. But I think to just put the sentence out there that when it's right, it'll all be easy. I'm sorry, that's not true. That's just not true. And we're not here on this earth to have it easy, sadly. We're here to grow. And you do grow through relationships. And that's why relationships are not always easy. And the last one, love hurts. Now, love itself will never hurt. Love, the feeling of love, is never gonna hurt. Situations hurt, growing hurts, triggers can hurt, but love itself never hurts. Now, let's summarize this. Always listen to yourself if you can. Build a connection with yourself through meditation or yoga or silence and peace and journaling or however you do it. Build a relationship with yourself, because when you do that, you can just ask yourself, you don't need to ask anybody else, is that person good for me? Should I move forward? Do I have a good feeling about that person? You can just ask yourself. You don't need to ask anybody on the internet. You don't need to ask anybody, any of your friends. Yes, there's nothing wrong with sometimes taking advice, but be careful who you take advice from. Be careful who you talk to. And the other thing is, you don't need to buy expensive packages from relationship gurus. You don't need to buy into expensive events. If you want to, yes. And if you can afford it, why not? But if you are the regular average person, you might want to invest your money better than that. Finding an affordable counselor or coach, or doing things for yourself and your mental health, like exercise or singing or acting or things that make you happy, can have just as much a positive effect as highly pricey programs that are advertised to you. And I just want you to know that, because not many people say that. There's all these people advertising their expensive programs out there and they have the solution for you, blah, blah, blah. At the end, what it comes down to is you processing whatever trauma you have from the past, or from your last relationship or whatever, you having a connection with yourself, you loving yourself, all that stuff, it always comes down to that, no matter how much you pay someone. I will leave a link in the description box for a website where you can find accredited, I think it's counselors, I'm not sure if it's therapists, and you can see the prices. So there's no surprise. You can see the prices and you can write to them, see if they have availability. I will also leave a recommendation to a coaching program that is very affordable. I'm not sponsored by these websites, but I wanted to leave you affordable links. So if you feel you want to do something, then I want you to know that you can do it in an affordable way. And just a tiny bit of self-advertising at the very end. If you don't know, I wrote this book, Love Life Simplified, and it actually won an award. This is not the newest version. The newest version has the award here. I won an award from, I think it was called New Apple. It's in the category Young Adult, Inspirational. And I wrote this book when I was going through a lot in terms of relationships, in terms of dating. It felt like I read every relationship book under the sky. I don't know what the phrase is. And I bought into relationship programs. I went to expensive events. You don't need to do that. So I summarized what I've learned and my journey in this book. You can get it on Amazon if you're interested. I also have the link below in my description box. That'll be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I wish you happy Valentine's Day, regardless of whether you're in a relationship or you're not. Just enjoy it. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos. See you next time. Bye!